So I never felt like I could unplug, and I just did a lot of reflection at that time and said there's got to be something different for me, there's got to be something better. And I had some long conversations with my wife about what I was thinking, because I was the primary breadwinner at the time, and all the benefits were coming through me, so there would have to be a lot of adjustments going forward. But she was supportive, and she knew kind of on how unhappy I was.
Here's part 2 of our interview with Marine Corps veteran Greg Fischer. He shares more about his journey from corporate employee to entrepreneur, pursuing his passion, military transition, and much more. Let's get right into it. So, if we were friends in high school, who is Greg Fischer, and why did you decide to join the military?
Well, I think in high school I was probably the quiet one, and you could always probably find me on the soccer field. I played soccer growing up my entire life, and pretty much kept to myself for the most part. So, go to school, come home, play soccer, go to sleep, and repeat. So that's pretty much who I was in high school. And then what made me join the Marine Corps was really I'd been looking at the military my junior and senior year. As an option, and 9/11 happened, September 11, 2001, when I was a senior. So that really helped make my mind up for me that it was time for me to go serve my country. And shortly after that, in November, I signed up for the Marine Corps. And then after I graduated in June, I was gone to San Diego for basic training.
Right out of the next week, or
no? I get made fun of a little bit, but I took my summer off, right? So I think it was like the first week of August was when I left. Yeah.
Enjoy a little bit of freedom.
Yeah, I wasn't working. I was just preparing to leave, so I just took a month and a half off to just kind of get things set, and then first week of August I was gone to San Diego, and that's where I stayed.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So recently, within the last year or two here, you had a good corporate job, and you went out on your own. You took a risk. Why did you decide that was the right time for you to go out on your own?
Yeah. So I left my my job in August of 2020 to pursue what I'm doing now. And I'd spent a decade at that organization. It was a great organization to work for. I had the opportunity to build great relationships and build up some skills that maybe I was lacking when I first started. But at the end of the day, I ultimately made up my mind over July 4th weekend in 2020, because I was constantly on. I was getting emails, I was getting phone calls. At the same time, I was supposed to be with my family on vacation. So I never felt like I could unplug, and I just did a lot of reflection at that time and said there's got to be something different for me, there's got to be something better. And I had some long conversations with my wife about what I was thinking, because I was the primary breadwinner at the time, and all the benefits were coming through me, so there would have to be a lot of adjustments going forward. But she was supportive, and she knew kind of on how unhappy I was. And we made the decision, and a few weeks later I put in my 2 weeks notice and started on this journey that I'm on right now.
That's awesome, man. I love to hear that. So being a new entrepreneur, right? How do you manage your time between your family and your work now? Because you're doing something you love to do,
right?
But I'm sure there's a lot of time and effort that goes into doing what you do.
Yeah. And I guess one of the things that I look back on now is I could never unplug when I was working for corporate, but I was always working for somebody else. I was always at somebody else's, on somebody else's call, right? I was doing it for somebody else, and now I get the opportunity to do this for me. So even though I'm on a lot as well, building this business, it still allows me the time to take away, and I can go, like today, for example, I was able to pick my son up from his preschool, take him to 4K, and then come here, right? So I have a little bit more flexibility to do some of those things that maybe I wouldn't have the opportunity to do before. So balancing, it's still a fine line. It's still me being passionate about what I'm doing and putting in long hours. But also understanding that the reason I left there was so I could be a little bit more connected with my home life and feel like I'm part of something a little bit greater than just working for somebody else.
Absolutely.
So it's still a challenge. I'm not perfect at it, and we're still in the very young stages of our business. So I still have to put in quite a bit of time and hours. But usually then I'm still taking the kids to practice. I'm coaching my son in soccer. But then once we get home and they're in bed, I'm probably back on and working again, right? But it's a different feeling when you're doing it for yourself and you're building something for yourself.
Absolutely. I know it's been a short time, but
yeah.
Is there anything you do differently that that you've learned over the course of this short period of time that maybe you would be like, I probably would have done that differently?
Yeah, I think looking back, I would give myself permission to say no a lot more. Because when you're a new entrepreneur and you start putting your story out there, a lot of people come to you and ask you for things. They think you're like a successful business owner already, right? So maybe we took on a little bit too many events and too many things right away, and weren't as strategic as we would have liked to have been with some of the things that we did early on. And I would just say I'd probably say no a lot more and be very hyper focused on a few aspects of the business. And I think if we were to do that, we'd probably be a little bit further along than we are right now.
Sure. No, I could totally relate to that.
Yeah.
What have you had any challenges along the way that, maybe supply issues or anything like that you've had to encounter and overcome during the time span as well?
Well, we've been very fortunate that we haven't run into the supply issues that I know some of our competitors have. We do source everything locally from Wisconsin. Some of the ingredients we have to get from out of the state. But we found a great co-packer within the state that can help us with some of those things. One challenge that we had early on, though, was the logistics of shipping. So we have a physical product in our rubs and our sauces, and our sauces come in glass bottles. And shipping those across the country can be challenging at sometimes. So when we first launched and we first introduced those and people were buying them from our website, we had a number of those break as they were being delivered to the end user. So we had to go back to the drawing board and figure out why these bottles breaking, how can we get them safely to the customer who bought them, and make sure that doesn't happen again. So that took a little bit of time. It was an unexpected challenge that we weren't really prepared for at the time, but now looking back, I'm glad we went through that because it gave us a lot more information to go on if we were to do something like that again.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting your first customers,
yeah.
I mean, that had to be exciting.
Yeah.
Like, so when did it finally, you probably had some onesie twosies come in and then bam, it probably just started to hit. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's always exciting when you see that pop up because we all have apps on our phones and we see when a sale comes in right from our website. It's always exciting. I think it's even more exciting when you have somebody that you don't know that buys something from you, right? Because early on, it's very much friends and family. They're there to support you, and that's awesome. But when you get that first sale from somebody you don't know, that's a good feeling as well. But yeah, I think the first time it hit us was when we went to kind of our first event. Where we were out in front of the public for the first time, providing our products and sharing them, where we started getting really good feedback and multiple purchases at the same time. And then if we were to go back to that same event, people coming back and saying, I love your stuff, and they were there to buy some more. So I think once we heard that and we saw that, we felt like we had something good on our hands there.
That's awesome, man. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Shifting gears a little bit.
Sure.
When you first got out of the military, what was your transition like, and what advice would you have for a veteran who is in that phase right now? They're thinking about getting out, or they're 6 to 12 months out.
Yeah.
What sort of feedback would you give them?
Yeah, I think I'll start with that that piece first. So what advice would I give them right now? Is I'd say as soon as you make that decision that you're no longer going to be staying in the military, is that you have to start preparing right away, and that includes your finances. That includes start looking for employment if that's what you're going to do, or education. Start connecting with the resources where you're going back to, whether that's back home from where you grew up or some other place. So those would be my initial kind of recommendations. Is you got to start planning as soon as you made that decision, and your transition will be a lot smoother if you start doing that early on. For me, my transition was probably better than most, I'd say, because I did plan ahead of time. I did have quite a bit of money saved up from my time in the Marine Corps because I didn't have many expenses, and I was overseas quite a bit, so I didn't have I didn't have a chance to spend my money. So I was able to come home and get things set up where I had a place to live. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to go back to school, so I started looking at and enrolling into schooling. And at the same time, I was also looking for employment. So I was doing all kind of those things at the same time. Plus, I had the support of my family and my fiance at the time, now my wife, which was completely helpful. Having a strong base to come back to, family, friends, was something I think, looking back on it now, was something that really helped me transition back into the civilian world maybe a little bit easier than some of the people that I know of that I served with when they went back home.
Sure. You had a pretty good, strong career going.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find your How did you find your way to that corporate job?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of guys that they have trouble translating their skills
Yeah.
into positions in a corporate world.
Sure.
How did you find your place where you were at that corporate job?
Yeah, I got my opportunity when I was a junior in college, so I was looking for internships, and that's how I got my foot in the door, was through the internship program. And from there, I still developed skills and was working on my resume and working on developing relationships within the organization. So that's where I started, and that helped me. But I can see, and I've worked with other veterans that have transitioned with translating their skills and being able to get back into the civilian world in a corporate position. But ultimately, the biggest thing is, don't wait for somebody to come to you. You have to go out and you have to search and you have to find those positions. You have to connect with those people, because nobody's going to, come tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, come work for me at this great organization." You have to go find those people. So, looking back, one of the things I did, I think, at the time I didn't realize again was, I'm very, very hyper focused on something. I go and I try and do it myself. I don't necessarily wait for somebody to come to me.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
What's your daily routine to set yourself up for success? Because you obviously had a good pattern, habits, and stuff like that when you were at the corporate job. Now you're on your own.
Yeah.
Do you still keep those same habits and routines?
A lot of them I do.
They change?
Yeah, a lot of them I do, but obviously, things, change quite a bit when you're working for yourself, because you don't have people telling you what you kind of need to do, right? Sure. But ultimately, it starts with getting up early in the morning, getting a workout in. I got scars on my face from jiu-jitsu this morning, right? So I get up and, I go train, whether that's weights or running or, martial arts or something like that. And I come back home, shower, eat the normal stuff. But then I'm, busting out the laptop, scheduling some of my social media posts and things like that throughout the day, so I don't have to be on all the time. And then a lot of it's business development. Like I said, I can't wait for anybody to come to me. We've got to go out. We got to find opportunities. So research, development, reaching out to people, and then the day-to-day stuff, shipping. We're still doing everything internally, shipping, handling, getting that stuff out to our customers, and then delivering to our retail suppliers. So that's a typical day. And then also things like this, we try and share our story as much as possible through other podcasts, opportunities like this, and then events. We'll try and make appearances at fundraisers if they're raising money for veteran organizations, those types of things. So we do have set daily things that we have to get done, but then a lot of it dictates on what's going on, externally that we have to maybe try and control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've interviewed quite a few people now, but the thing that a lot of them say is working out in the morning.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned it yourself. It's important for me. It's almost like therapy, to get your mindset right for the day. How important has that been for you?
Yeah, I feel like the best days that I have in my business are because I start early and I get that workout in. Otherwise, I'm just thinking about it throughout the rest of the day, and it just throws me off. So it's something I get off my plate early on. It allows me to get some of the anxiety and stressors out, because when you're running a business, a lot of things are happening at the same time. So it gives me a time to clear my mind and maybe think through some things. And then because pretty much from the time I'm done eating breakfast to the time the kids go to bed, we're usually pretty on and taking care of stuff. So it's just a little time for myself to get centered in the morning.
That's awesome, man. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for a veteran who's either getting out, transitioning? Would it be, go work at a corporate job, figure it out during that time frame, or would it be, now that you are a business owner, jump into what you're passionate about right away? What advice would you have for that veteran who's looking at entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think everybody's different. So the advantage, if you're not, most veterans are willing to take some risk. Otherwise, they wouldn't join the military, right? And so entrepreneurship is a natural fit for veterans looking at it that way. But the advantages of working for a stable organization or a large organization is a lot of these places have the ability to try different things to see what works for you. So you could get your foot in the door at an organization and maybe work and do a few different careers within that same organization, which is something that I did and helped me build a lot of skills that I use today. So there's advantages in that. But there's also advantages of just rolling up your sleeves and getting to work and working for yourself if you have the ability to do that. And that's why I say, plan early, give yourself some options, especially when it comes to your finances. Save your money if you can while you're in. So when you get out, you're not scrambling and you don't have to take that first job offer that comes to you. You have some time and the ability to kind of choose what you want to do.
Sure. Mm-hmm. You should go teach the military a financial class.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I know they. I burned through some of my money, but I've had friends that they blew everything when they got back from deployment.
I know the same guys that were living paycheck to paycheck, and we really had no expenses, so they were just blowing it. So I've seen it, and I didn't want to be like that. So that helped set me up a little bit for success after I got out.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. What impact and legacy do you want to leave on this earth before you leave?
Well, that's a pretty heavy question. I think for the most part is that you don't have to be stuck in the box that you put yourself in. One thing that I talk a lot about is I did what I thought I was supposed to do when I got out of the Marine Corps. I went to school, got my degree, worked for a great organization, but I was miserable. I was unfulfilled, miserable, and I was doing all the things that I thought I was supposed to do based off of what society was telling me. So if there's one thing that I could leave behind for my kids and maybe people who get inspiration from my story is that you can reinvent yourself no matter how old you are or what you're doing, and you don't have to always follow what other people are telling you to do. You can carve your own path and make your own way, and that's hopefully the legacy that I leave behind at the end of the day when this is all said and done.
If you missed part 1 of Greg's interview, you could check out that episode right here, or check out this one right here. Our goal is to keep the military community connected. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you in the next video.